So there are some of us ladies out there who come from backgrounds where we've noticed a recurring pattern. So maybe a certain pattern of behavior, maybe single parenthood, maybe broken marriages, maybe abusive relationships, not just marriage or male-female relationships, but in some families, you just find out that they keep attracting relationships or people who take advantage of them, or people who are mean, or people who are controlling and stuff like that. So it could be abusive relationships. It could be patterns of behavior that create certain outcomes at work or in business. Maybe you just find out that maybe you're the kind of person that doesn't follow things through, or in some places, they keep on shifting from one job to another, never quite staying long in one place. So there are these cycles of behavior that happen, and some people find themselves coming from such backgrounds. And if you come from that kind of background, or you know somebody who does, and you want to break the mold, you've noticed it and you're saying, look, I want this to end here, then this video is for you. But before I go further, have you subscribed to my channel? If you haven't, please take a moment to click that bell button below and subscribe. Thank you. So let's dive right into today's topic: breaking the mold of certain patterns, or breaking out of recognized patterns of behavior. So if you're somebody who has noticed these kinds of patterns of behavior, you want to break the mold. You're saying, look, it ends here. It ends with me. There are certain things you need to know and certain things you need to do. It's not just about wanting to break the mold and coming out of it. It's not just going to happen automatically. The mold won't just break automatically. It takes a certain type of person or certain behavioral traits to end a cycle and break the mold. And it could be you. It doesn't mean that, oh, if you're not that person, you can't learn it. Anybody can become that person. But there are things you need to understand. And once you understand them, you can learn them and then become that person and take charge of your life by breaking free of toxic cycles of behavior or patterns that don't serve you. Now, if you've watched this video this far, it means that you've recognized the pattern, which is the first step. Some people don't even realize that there's a pattern. They just continue their lives and they keep going. And so the cycle continues. Before you know what's happening, it has happened to them again, and then they keep moving on. So that you've even recognized that there's a pattern, that means that you've taken the first step. That's the first thing you need to do. Just recognize that there's a pattern, or that certain things keep happening in certain ways, either to you, to people within your environment, people within your family, or people within your circle. Number two, you need to be determined to break that pattern, and you need to believe that you can do it. So you need determination and you need can do. You need to be determined. You need to say, look, this ends with me. I've recognized that there is a pattern and I'm willing to take the step to break that pattern. It ends with me. This cycle will not continue with me. I will break it. But it's not just enough to be determined. You also need to believe that you can do it. You may be determined, but you may not believe that you can actually do it. If you believe that, you know what, I want it to end, I'm willing to try, but the tide is just too strong, then you will fail. But if you believe that you can do it, then you will do it. And the truth is, you can. You can. Anybody can. Whatever you've decided to do, if you take a decision and put your mind to it and take steps towards it, then you can do it. And you have to recognize that and believe that. But then, it's not just enough to have positivity about it. Positivity is not going to break the cycles. You want it to end, you believe you can do it, but that's not enough. That would be like running into an army of soldiers, believing that because you are determined and because you want it so much that you are going to run through them, but you don't have a plan. Which brings me to the third step: strategic planning. You must plan carefully. You must be strategic in your actions. You don't just act anyhow with positivity behind you. No, your actions must be strategic and tactical At the same time, you must weigh your actions and know exactly what you are trying to do. So the first step in strategic planning is to carry out a SWOT analysis of yourself. SWOT stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Now, your strengths are the things that serve you, that can help you to achieve your goals, that are within your control or internal to you. So maybe you know that you're a very independent-minded person. That is something that will serve you towards achieving this goal of breaking the cycle. Because patterns of belief are engendered by the behavior of the whole. Because a lot of people have been through it, that's what you've seen, you are more likely to behave like that. It becomes a subconscious way that you are likely to act. And even when you try to break free, because of the strength of the collective around you, you are less likely to be able to break free if you don't have an independent spirit. So if you're an independent-minded person, that is something that can serve you. That is a strength. It is internal to you. Sometimes it's things that are not necessarily internal, but they are within your control. So maybe you have access to resources. Maybe you've worked hard, you have money, you have access to people and things like that. Those are things that can help you in achieving any goal in breaking free. Then you have your weaknesses. Weaknesses are the opposites of strength. They're things that are internal to you or within your control, but which will not serve you in achieving your goal. So for instance, maybe you come from a very protective family and you find out that you're a very sentimental person. Then that is something that will not serve you. The problem is if you don't recognize your weaknesses, they will blindside you. And while you'll be acting on your strengths, your weaknesses will be drawing you back. So if you find out that, oh, I'm a very sentimental person, because you've recognized it, then you will be able to take steps to mitigate that. That when the sentiments start to arise, this is what I'm going to do. But it's internal to you. It's not about the environment. It's not about anything. If you see that, oh, I'm somebody who's very attached to my family, for example, then you're going to have to take steps to mitigate that weakness that is in you, because that is your weakness, your personal weakness. It's personal to you. Another member of your family may not have that. So that's something you're going to have to take care of. So you have to recognize it. Then you have opportunities. Opportunities are things within the environment that are external to you, completely external to you. They're just within your environment and you have no control over them, but that work in your favor. So for example, let's go back to our analogy of a protective family. So you come from a very protective family where everybody's very clingy and you're trying to say, you know what, I need to stand alone. I need to break out of this mold of clinginess and be able to stand on my own as a person. Now, if you find out that maybe there's an opportunity or there are opportunities for people in your line of business or in your line of work to get scholarships to leave the country, that is not within your control, but it happened to come at this time. That is an opportunity that you can take advantage of. So you know that if you leave the country, it's going to put that space between you and your family so that that clinginess is broken. So that's an opportunity, something that serves you or serves your goal, but is not within your control. Then the threats are the opposite. They're external to you, they're outside your control, but they don't serve you towards your goal. For example, in the analogy we are using, COVID would have been a threat because you are trying to break free, and then this thing, this force that you have no control over comes and forces everybody to come back together. And you just find out that all the progress that you've made is at the risk of being lost. And so that's a threat. So sit down, do a SWOT analysis, look through all those factors, the strengths, the weaknesses, the opportunities, and the threats that are personal to you, and do an honest analysis. Now, not just honest, but make it very, very honest. You have to tell yourself what I like to call the butt naked truth. You know, women, we like to package ourselves. So you're snatched, you've worn the corset, you've worn the girdle, your waist is cinched and snatched, and you're looking like a snack. When you get into your bedroom and you take off all the accessories, you know what you look like. That is the butt naked truth. That truth that only you sees. Because I'm sitting here behind the screen, you can't tell me, and I don't expect you to. But you know the truth about your situation. Tell yourself that truth. If you have a weakness, don't try and work around it, navigate it, or sugarcoat it. Tell yourself the butt naked truth about your situation, about your strengths, about your weaknesses, about the opportunities that lie around you, and about the threats that lie around you. The next step in strategic planning is that you need to be prepared. It's preparation. See, the fact that you now know your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats does not mean that you're just going to move. You have to be prepared. And you have to be prepared on 3 levels. Number 1, you have to have goals. Prepare your goals. And your goals cannot be airy. There are things that you can measure to tell you whether you are moving nearer to your goal or not. So, for example, in our analogy of this clingy family, your goal could be financial independence. Maybe the reason why everybody is clingy is because there's a certain amount of money or resources that dwells within the family that everybody is reliant on. And that is what makes the family clingy and gives them control over everyone else. So in that situation, your goal could be financial independence. And so you begin to take steps towards breaking free and being able to stand financially without needing to depend on your family. It could be emotional independence. It could be that you need to move away in terms of location. So it could be geographical independence. So you need to actually move, create space within them. So you set your goals, the indices that will help you measure whether you are moving towards breaking that pattern or not. You have to prepare those goals and set them. Number 2, you have to prepare for the pushback. Nobody ever breaks out of a mold without there being pushback. If you come from a clingy family, for example, they're going to want to hold you back. There's going to be a lot of emotional blackmail. There's going to be a lot of physical blackmail. There's going to be a lot of back and forth coming from people within the enclave or within the environment. So in some communities, you find out that because nobody ever goes to school, when you want to go to school, they make fun of you. They're telling you, who do you think you are? Nobody has ever done that. They're making fun of you. Those are pushbacks. Because at the end of the day, everybody wants you to remain the same. So standing out is hard and you will get punished for it. Those are the pushbacks. You have to be prepared for the pushbacks. You have to be prepared mentally. You have to be prepared emotionally. You have to be prepared psychologically. And you have to be prepared physically. What are you going to do against those pushbacks? On the 3rd level, you need to be prepared for setbacks. Because there will be times that setbacks could come in. For example, in the analogy of somebody who wants to go to school and nobody in their family has ever done it, or maybe you come from a family where the females just don't go to school. Your father is not willing to educate a female. Then you have to know that if you run out of money, that is a setback. Or perhaps in your push towards independence, financial independence, you had planned that by age 25, I will have a job that is paying me so. But unfortunately, you're at 27 now and you haven't even finished school. That is a setback. What are you going to do in times of setback? Those kind of challenges. So there's the pushback, which is coming from people. Then there's the setback, which is circumstances beyond your control. What are you going to do with those? You have to be prepared for those. Now, the next thing you need to understand is that in breaking a cycle or breaking patterns, it's not about going cold turkey. You can't just make a sharp cut off. Because the reason why people haven't made a sharp cut till now or haven't broken out of the mold till now is because it's a kind of addictive behavior. It's easier to remain in the status quo and just keep your balance. Breaking free takes a lot. And if you just go cold turkey and just said, I'm making a sharp cut, you may fall back into the cycle because of the tsunami of challenges that will come with that. And so it's like winning a baby. When you are winning a baby, you don't just stop breastfeeding them all at once. You begin to create more time between each feed. So, for example, you want to break free of an overly clingy family. Maybe you used to see them every day. Instead of seeing them every day, you can make it every other day. So you begin to see them every other day. And That makes it easier for you to manage the time away. Before you know what's happening, you're able to do 2 days, then you're able to do 3 days, then you're able to do once a week, then you're able to do once a month. And before you know what's happening, you can go months without seeing them. That is easier than just making a sharp cut and saying, from today, I'm cutting off from this family. Some people can do it, but most people can't. And so it's very hard. This is the way that generally works. Cycles are like an addiction. If you have somebody who is addicted to drugs, somebody who is addicted to porn or anything, what you find is that when you cut them off from the supply, they begin to experience withdrawal symptoms. And so in the same way, if you cut off just like that, you will experience withdrawal symptoms. But if you give it staged withdrawal, you will find out that the effects of the symptoms will be manageable, more and more manageable, until you're able to stay for an extremely long period and until you find out that you've even broken free. So it's a step-by-step thing that you need to work on. It's not just going to happen. It's something you need to think about, and it's something you need to strategically plan for and execute. Now, don't forget to watch my next video. And if you learned something from this one, tell me in the comments. Ciao!